Alright, in this video we're talking user profiles, sign in, sign up, and premium membership.
She needs premium, dude! Premium! Dude!
This means the app has finally made contact with the Supabase backend. I'm not using live gig data at the moment, but I am using that connectivity to make use of user data and authentication data. So let's take a look, shall we? All right. So first things first, let's maybe take a look at some of those features that I was just talking about. So the first thing you'll see here is the sign up screen. So I'm just going to click on here to sign in because I've already got some accounts that I can use. So yeah, that's looking very good and very nice. So if I put in test2@mail.com, put in a nice secure password. Well, that goes to show there's some good validation there. If I could spell test2, that would help. So let's give that a try. And boom, there we go. We are back to the home screen that we know and love. Looks same as it did before. Nice. So let's log out with this guy. And instead of test2, we put fan2 mail.com. Oh, no. I am all over the shop today. And sign in with that. You can see we've got this awful, horrendous green background. And there's not much else difference at the moment, but that just demonstrates that that user has been separated or has been identified, shall I say, as a member of the fan group or the premium membership, basically. So yeah, that just shows that working, and we can log back out. And yeah, if we needed to create an account, and we can just enter our email and password in here, hit create account, and that will go and create an account for you in the Supabase backend, which you can use to sign in with. Lovely. All right, so jumping over here to Supabase, if we click onto the database tab, you are greeted with the schema visualizer, and if we change the schema from public to auth, you can see all of these lovely tables here. And when you set up a Supabase project, it automatically creates this whole schema of authentication related databases, which takes care of things like users, MFA, sessions, and tokens. Like, for example, if we have a look at some of these tables, we've got users, sessions, tokens, SSO providers, SAML, all of that good stuff that you don't have to do or create yourself. And when you use Supabase's built-in features and functions for authentication, it automatically points to these and writes things to the right places, which is great. If we pop over to the authentication tab, what we've got here is a simplified view of the users table, and it contains some of the users that I was using to log in a minute ago. They've all been created, excuse me, they've all been created using the sign up function, and they get populated with unique ID, a display name, an email address, a phone number if they give it, provider type. The provider at the moment is an email because that is all I've got set up at the moment. You can use other providers like socials and things like that, and they are found here in the sign up tab. Like I said, I've just got email enabled here, but Supabase supports all of these, everything from Facebook to GitLab to Google to I don't even know what Cacao is, but it's supported. All right, and jumping back over to the code. Once you've set up a project in Supabase, you need to get your front end to talk to it, and this is done by creating a file that connects to it using your project's URL and its anonymous key. Then, in that file, creating a client which can be used throughout the app. And that client lives in my supabase.ts file. So that is right here. And in this file, we've got the Expo Secure Store adapter, and what that does is it wraps expose secure store methods in an adapter, which lets Supabase securely save and retrieve your auth tokens on the device without any extra hassle. Further down here, we've got the Supabase URL and the anon key of the project. And finally, we've got the client initialization, which takes in both of these. The auth section is just where we're setting some handy options like auto refreshing tokens and persisting sessions. So that keeps users logged in without you having to lift a finger, basically. In short, the main thing to take away is that it's setting up a secure, smooth connection between the app and Supabase, handling auth tokens behind the scenes so that I can focus on building cool features. And now that's done, that means we can access the Supabase client throughout the rest of the app. And one place that we do that is in the fancy new auth context provider, which is, there we go, context, auth context. So if you saw my last video, you'll be familiar with my old friend, the React Context API, which I'm using to share data across my app, but this time I'm using it to share user data and authentication data. And I'm doing this by creating an auth context provider. So for the imports, we're importing the Supabase client, which we just saw in the last file, as well as the session TypeScript type from Supabase itself. Then create the auth data TypeScript type, which uses the session type. And next, I create the actual auth context itself using the auth data type that we just made. So everything's nice and secure. And initially, the session set to null because no one's logged in, loading set to true, profile set to null because we have no data, and isFan is set to false. And the fan status, or isFan, is a Boolean value that can be assigned to a user, and I put it there as a placeholder for a way to tell if someone has unlocked the premium mode, which is what I showed you earlier with that hideous green background. I haven't decided on the specifics of what I'm going to do, or even if I'm going to use that premium mode at all, but I thought it was a good idea to put in the foundations now so I can build on that functionality further down the line if I want to. The auth provider function basically checks if someone's logged in and fetches their details if they are. It keeps track of the session, loading status, and the profile using state. And then what we've got here is this big old use effect. Use effect is a React hook that runs side effects, which are any operation that interacts with something outside of the component, like data fetching or subscription after the component renders. So what it's doing here is it checks with Supabase to see if there's an existing open session, and then if it does, it goes to fetch the profile data from the profile table. And this is essentially a SQL query followed by some error handling. We then get the actual session data from Supabase using the Supabase get session method. And it then sets the session data to the state and calls the fetch profile function, which we just stored there, with the session data that it just retrieved. It then sets up a listener, which subscribes to auth changes from Supabase so that changes are picked up in real time, not just when the component first mounts. And finally, it closes up the listener when the component unmounts. Once everything is set up, the auth provider provides this data to the rest of the app via the context provider. And again, like in the gig context, we've set up a custom hook called useauth, which wraps everything up for components to easily consume from. So in short, this file manages all the behind the scenes work for handling authentication in the app. It checks for logged in users, fetches their profiles, keeps an eye on any changes, and makes sure that every other part of the app can access the latest authentication information. Woo. Okay. So now that we're getting the auth data from Supabase in a context provider that's able to share it with other components throughout the app, let's take a look at where it's used. And what we've got here is the sign-in screen. And we start by importing the Supabase client, as we've done before, but this time also importing the auth context provider in the shape of the useauth custom hook. At the top here, we've got a load of state that holds the email and the password, and we've got this true or false state, which determines whether the password should be shown or not. And the same again for the loading status. This cute little function here that just switches on or off the show password. It just sets show password to the opposite of what it currently is. And the sign in with email async function that goes ahead and sets the loading status to true. It then calls the Supabase method sign in with password with the supplied email and password. If it errors, it throws an error message and then it sets the loading status back to false. This is a quick check to see if the profile exists. So if the user's there, it automatically redirects them home. So they shouldn't be seeing the sign-in page. And then we go to render out the UI, which is super basic at this point, but it does the job. So just quickly, you can see that the value of the input is what the email state is, and the state is updated every time that value is changed. Same again for the password, but this time with the addition of secure text. So that's being enabled if show password is false. And then down here, we've got the eye icon, which does the toggle password on press. And down here, we just got the button to sign in. So that just runs all of the function, the sign in with email function that we saw here. And that's pretty much it. We've got some styling down there, which is fine. So there we go. In a nutshell, this file, it builds the sign-in screen, handles the user input, authentication via Supabase, and navigation. The sign-in, the sign-up page is very similar. So nice cut and paste jobby there. The main difference is that the function which calls Supabase sign in instead calls Supabase sign up. So all the complex stuff like taking the user's profile details, assigning unique IDs and writing to the database and everything, they're already taken care of by Supabase when you call the sign up or sign in methods. Nice. Now, going back to the whole fan status slash premium membership thing, I thought it would be a good idea to get a visual representation so that I would know if it's working or not, which turned out to be that disgusting green background that you saw earlier, right at the beginning. I initially tried to do that by changing the color of the background at the root layout level here. So I imported the use auth hook and I tried to apply it. Here you can see I'm pulling out the isFan status, and I tried to apply it here at the stack and the header style. So what this is trying to do is, if you are a fan, then this header up here should be pink. Otherwise, it should be this purple. This was obviously the incorrect way to do it because I couldn't get this to work. And I tried to do it at this level because I wanted it to be consistent throughout the whole app, whether you're a premium member or not. But couldn't get to work here, so what I did is I resorted to doing it in the home screen, and it's the same pattern. I import the use auth hook, I extract the isFan status from it, and then dependent on whether it's true or false, we either use the container fan style or the regular style, which they are just style sheet styles here. Um, Obviously, that's not a permanent measure, it's not a permanent fix, and it's not the way I wanted it to work initially. But if I take a step back, it serves its purpose, which was purely just to let me know that the fan status was actually working or not. So I can log in with different users like I did earlier and see whether that color is there. So that's kind of the main things in this build. On top of that, there are little bits and pieces like using gig list directly from the component rather than writing it out again in the tab's home screen. Tidying up some of the headers, redirecting users from the screens if they're not logged in. Um, I'm sure there's plenty of other stuff that caused me trouble, but I can't really remember the specifics right now. But rest assured, there were plenty, and it wasn't smooth sailing. But yeah, that's the sort of stuff I'll be able to highlight more easily once I get back up to the present day build. So yeah, I think we can call it there for this video. And yeah, that's one more video down and one more video closer to said present day build. So yeah, peace out. Thank you for watching and see you later.